Elena Rodriguez clutched her purse tighter as she walked through the marble lobby of the Castellano Tower. Her worn-out shoes clicked against the polished floor, each step echoing her growing anxiety. She had been working as a cleaner for Romano Enterprises for 3 years, and today might be her last day. The 26-year-old woman had received the dreaded pink slip yesterday morning. Budget cuts, they said. Her supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, had delivered the news with barely concealed satisfaction. Elena knew the real reason, though. She had accidentally overheard a confidential phone conversation between 2 executives about money laundering operations. Ever since then, she felt eyes watching her every move. Elena needed this job desperately. Her younger brother, Carlos, was in his final year of medical school, and she had been sending him money every month. Their parents had died in a car accident 5 years ago, leaving Elena as the sole provider. Without this job, Carlos would have to drop out, and all their sacrifices would be meaningless. As she reached the 20th floor, Elena's hands trembled slightly. She had heard rumors about the man who owned this building, Dante Castellano. Some said he was just a successful businessman. Others whispered darker things. But Elena was running out of options. If anyone had the power to override her termination, it would be him. The receptionist, a blonde woman with perfectly manicured nails, looked up with raised eyebrows. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone suggesting Elena didn't belong there. "I need to speak with Mr. Castellano," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's urgent." The receptionist laughed. "Mr. Castellano doesn't meet with random people. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but please, I work for Romano Enterprises downstairs. I was fired and I think there's been a mistake. I just need 5 minutes of his time." "Security!" the receptionist called out, reaching for her phone. "Wait!" Elena stepped forward desperately. "Please, just tell him that Elena Rodriguez needs to speak with him about the Romano situation. Tell him I know about the Tuesday meetings." The receptionist paused, her finger hovering over the phone. She studied Elena's face carefully, then picked up a different phone. After a brief, whispered conversation, she hung up and looked surprised. "Mr. Castellano will see you now. Take the elevator to the penthouse. Don't touch anything." Elena's heart pounded as the elevator climbed. She had no idea what she was walking into, but she had to try. When the doors opened, she found herself in an elegant office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Behind an imposing desk sat a man who looked to be in his early 30s. Dante Castellano was not what she expected. Tall and lean, with dark hair and sharp green eyes, he wore an expensive suit that fit him perfectly. He was handsome in a dangerous way, with an aura of power that filled the room. When he looked up from his documents, Elena felt as if he could see right through her. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said, his voice smooth and controlled, "my receptionist says you mentioned the Tuesday meetings. That's interesting, considering those meetings don't exist on any official schedule." Elena swallowed hard. She had taken a huge gamble mentioning something she had overheard, and now she realized she might have made a terrible mistake. "Mr. Castellano, I apologize for disturbing you. I was fired from my cleaning job downstairs, and I'm desperate. I have a brother in medical school, and without this job, he'll have to quit. I'll do anything to keep working." Dante leaned back in his chair, studying her intently. "Tell me exactly what you heard about these Tuesday meetings." Elena's mind raced. She could lie and say she made it up, but something in his expression told her he would see right through any deception. "I was cleaning the conference room late one evening. 2 men were talking about moving money through different accounts, using Romano Enterprises as a front. They mentioned Tuesday meetings where decisions are made about which businesses to influence." The room fell silent. Dante stood up slowly and walked around his desk, stopping just a few feet from Elena. She could smell his expensive cologne and feel the intensity of his gaze. You realize what you've just told me could get you killed, he said matter-of-factly. Elena's knees nearly gave out, but she forced herself to stand straight. I understand, but my brother's future is worth the risk. I swear I haven't told anyone else, and I never will. I just want to keep cleaning floors and stay invisible. Dante circled her slowly, like a predator evaluating prey. The problem, Ms. Rodriguez, is that you're no longer invisible. By coming here, by knowing what you know, you've put yourself in a very dangerous position. I can't simply let you walk away. Please, Elena whispered, her voice breaking. I'll sign anything you want. A non-disclosure agreement, whatever legal document you need. I'll forget everything I heard. Legal documents. Dante laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. You think this is about paperwork? Elena felt tears threatening to spill over. Then what do you want from me? I have nothing to offer except my silence and my loyalty. Dante stopped directly in front of her, his green eyes boring into hers. Actually, you might be exactly what I need. I have a problem, Ms. Rodriguez. There are people who want to hurt me, and they've been getting uncomfortably close to succeeding. I need someone by my side who appears harmless. Someone no one would suspect of being connected to my business operations. Elena blinked in confusion. I don't understand. I need a wife, Dante said simply. Not for love, not for romance, but for protection. A married man appears more stable, more settled, less likely to be involved in dangerous activities, and a wife who works as a cleaner, no one would ever suspect she has access to sensitive information. Elena stared at him in shock. You want me to marry you? It would be a business arrangement. You would live in my penthouse, play the role of my devoted wife in public, and in return, your brother's medical school will be paid for in full. You'll receive a generous monthly allowance, and when our arrangement is no longer necessary, you'll receive a divorce settlement that will set you up for life. The offer was so outrageous, so impossible, that Elena couldn't process it at first. But you don't even know me. We just met. How could you trust me with something so important? Dante smiled for the first time, though it didn't reach his eyes. Trust? This isn't about trust, Ms. Rodriguez. This is about mutual benefit and carefully calculated risk. You need money for your brother and security for yourself. I need a wife who won't ask questions and won't develop inconvenient feelings. You've already proven you can keep secrets, and your desperation makes you predictable. Elena's mind reeled. Marriage to a man she didn't know, a man who was clearly involved in illegal activities. But the alternative was losing everything she had worked for, watching her brother's dreams crumble and possibly ending up dead if she knew too much to simply walk away. How long would this arrangement last? She asked quietly. 2 years, possibly 3. Long enough to solve my current problems and establish the image I need. And if I say no? Dante's expression hardened. Then you'll find that keeping secrets becomes much more difficult when you're constantly looking over your shoulder. Elena understood the threat. She was trapped, caught between impossible choices. But as she looked at this dangerous, powerful man, she realized that marriage to him might be her only chance of survival. I need time to think, she said. You have until tomorrow morning. Meet me here at 9 a.m. with your answer. And Ms. Rodriguez, don't try to run. I have people watching you now. For your own protection, of course. As Elena rode the elevator down, her entire world had shifted. Yesterday she was a simple cleaning woman worried about paying rent. Now she was being offered marriage to a man who might be a criminal, with enough money to change her life forever. But at what cost? That night, Elena lay awake in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carlos, excitedly telling her about his upcoming final exams. He had no idea how close he had come to losing everything. Elena closed her eyes and tried to imagine what her life would be like as Dante Castellano's wife. The luxury, the danger, the constant pretending. Could she really go through with it? As dawn approached, she realized she had already made her choice. She had to protect Carlos, and this was the only way. But she had no idea what she was truly getting herself into. Elena arrived at the Castellano Tower at exactly 9 a.m., wearing her best dress, a simple navy blue outfit she had bought for job interviews. Her decision had been made in the early hours of the morning when she received another text from Carlos about struggling to pay for his final semester textbooks. She couldn't let him down. Dante was waiting for her in his office, impeccably dressed as before. This time, however, he wasn't alone. A tall, thin man with silver hair sat across from his desk, and a woman with a tablet stood nearby. "Ms. Rodriguez," Dante said without preamble, "I trust you've made your decision." "Yes," Elena said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I accept your proposal." Dante nodded as if he had expected nothing else. "Excellent. Allow me to introduce my lawyer, Mr. Vincent Torino, and my assistant, Ms. Sarah Chen. We have some paperwork to handle." The next 2 hours were a blur of legal documents. Elena found herself signing contract after contract, each one more detailed than the last. The prenuptial agreement alone was 15 pages long, outlining exactly what she could and couldn't do as Dante's wife. She would live in his penthouse but maintain her own bedroom. She would attend social functions and business dinners as needed. She was never to discuss his business with anyone, not even in hypothetical terms. She would receive a monthly allowance of $10,000, and Carlos's medical school expenses would be transferred to a trust fund immediately. "There's one more thing," Dante said as she finished signing the last document. "We need to make this marriage appear genuine, which means we need a wedding that people will remember. Nothing too elaborate, but public enough that word gets out." Elena blinked. "When?" "This Saturday. I've already made arrangements." "Saturday? That's only 5 days away." Sarah stepped forward with her tablet. "I've scheduled appointments for you this afternoon. Wedding dress fitting at 2 p.m., hair and makeup consultation at 4 p.m., and dinner with Mr. Castellano's mother at 7 p.m. Elena's head spun. "Your mother? You want me to meet your mother?" Dante's expression grew slightly more serious. "My mother is very important to me, Ms. Rodriguez. She's also very good at spotting lies. If we can convince her that our relationship is genuine, we can convince anyone. But what do I tell her? How did we meet? How long have we been dating?" "We'll discuss that over lunch," Dante said, checking his watch. "I have a meeting in an hour, but we need to establish our story first." They went to an expensive restaurant near the tower, where Dante outlined their fictional romance with the precision of a military operation. They had met 6 months ago when Elena was working late, and he stopped by the Romano offices. They had been dating quietly, keeping their relationship private because of the difference in their social status. Elena had been reluctant to marry him because she felt out of place in his world, but he had finally convinced her. "Remember," Dante said as they finished their meal, "the key to a good lie is keeping it as close to the truth as possible. You are nervous about fitting into my world. That part is genuine. I pursued you despite your reservations. That's believable. The only lie is that there are romantic feelings involved." Elena nodded, though her stomach was churning. "What if people ask why we're getting married so quickly? We'll say that recent events have made me realize life is too short to wait. My business has been under some pressure lately, and I want to secure my happiness while I can." The afternoon passed in a whirlwind of appointments. The bridal shop was unlike anything Elena had ever seen, with gowns that cost more than she made in a year. The consultant, after learning she was marrying Dante Castellano, treated her like royalty. "We need something elegant but not too flashy," the woman said, pulling dress after dress. "Mr. Castellano specified that his bride should look classic and sophisticated. Elena found herself staring at her reflection in a stunning silk gown with delicate lace sleeves. She looked like a different person, elegant, refined, worthy of standing next to a man like Dante. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like if this were real. The hair and makeup consultation was equally surreal. The stylist talked excitedly about creating a natural but polished look that would photograph well. Elena realized that their wedding would probably make the society pages, adding another layer of pressure to an already overwhelming situation. Dinner with Dante's mother, however, was the real test. Isabella Castellano was a striking woman in her late 50s, with silver-streaked dark hair and the same piercing green eyes as her son. She wore an elegant black dress and jewelry that Elena was certain cost more than most people's cars. They met at La Bernardin, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. Elena had changed into the one truly nice dress she owned, a black cocktail dress she had bought for her college graduation. "So you're the young woman who has captured my son's heart," Isabella said, studying Elena with undisguised interest. "Yes, ma'am," Elena replied, remembering Dante's coaching about being respectful, but not overly submissive. "Tell me about yourself, dear. Dante has been quite secretive about your relationship." Elena launched into their rehearsed story, but Isabella's sharp questions soon had her improvising. The older woman wanted to know about Elena's family, her background, her dreams and aspirations. To Elena's surprise, she found herself telling the truth about most things: her parents' death, her dedication to helping Carlos, her pride in honest work. "You love your brother very much," Isabella observed. "He's all the family I have left," Elena said honestly. "Everything I do is for him." Isabella's expression softened slightly. "Family is everything, isn't it? I can see why Dante is drawn to you. He's always admired loyalty and determination." As the evening progressed, Elena began to understand where Dante got his intensity. Isabella was clearly a formidable woman, but she also showed genuine warmth when discussing her son. "He's been through some difficult times lately," Isabella said as they shared dessert. "His business has been challenging and there have been some unpleasant situations. I worry about him constantly." "What kind of unpleasant situations?" Elena asked before she could stop herself. Isabella's eyes sharpened. "Nothing you need to concern yourself with, dear. But it's part of why I'm so pleased he's found you. A good woman can help a man stay grounded, help him remember what's truly important." Later, as Dante drove Elena home to her apartment, he seemed satisfied with how the evening had gone. "My mother likes you," he said. "That's not easy to achieve." "She's worried about you," Elena said. "The unpleasant situations she mentioned, are you in danger?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. "There are always risks in business, Ms. Rodriguez. That's why our arrangement is necessary." Elena wanted to ask more, but something in his tone warned her not to push. Instead, she said, "Your mother seems to think you genuinely care about me." "My mother sees what she wants to see. It makes things easier. And what about you? Do you ever see what you want to see?" Dante pulled up in front of her building and looked at her for a long moment. "I see what's real, nothing more. That's how I've survived this long." Elena climbed out of the car, but before she could walk away, Dante called her name. "Elena." It was the first time he had used her first name. "This arrangement we've made, it will require both of us to be convincing. That means sometimes we'll need to appear intimate. I want you to be prepared for that." Elena's cheeks burned. "What do you mean?" "I mean that married couples touch each other. They hold hands, they dance together, they share casual affection. If we're going to sell this story, we need to be comfortable with each other physically." "I understand," Elena said. though her heart was racing. "Do you? Because tomorrow we're going to announce our engagement at a charity gala. There will be photographers, society reporters, people watching our every interaction. We need to look like a couple in love." Elena nodded, though the thought terrified her. "I'll do whatever is necessary." Dante studied her face in the dim streetlight. "Yes," he said quietly, "I believe you will." As Elena watched his expensive car disappear into the night, she realized that in 3 days she would be married to a man who was still essentially a stranger. A man who expected her to touch him, to pretend to love him, to become someone entirely different from who she had always been. But when she thought about Carlos, about the relief in his voice when she had called to tell him his tuition was being taken care of, she knew she would do it. She would become Mrs. Dante Castellano, whatever that required. She just hoped she was strong enough to survive it. The next morning, Elena woke up to find a box outside her apartment door. Inside was a stunning engagement ring, a classic solitaire diamond that must have cost more than she made in 5 years. There was also a note in Dante's handwriting. "For tonight. Remember, we've been engaged for 2 weeks, but kept it private." As Elena slipped the ring onto her finger, she was struck by how perfectly it fit. Dante had somehow known her size without asking. It was a reminder of how powerful and observant he was, and how little privacy she would have in this new life. That evening's charity gala would be her first public appearance as Dante's fiancée. As she prepared for the event, wearing a designer gown that had been delivered that afternoon, Elena practiced her smile in the mirror. In just 2 days, she would be married. And her real education in what it meant to be connected to Dante Castellano was about to begin. The wedding day arrived with unseasonable rain, which Elena tried not to take as a bad omen. She stood in the bridal suite of the Grand Regency Hotel, staring at her reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back at her was elegant and sophisticated, everything she had never been before. Sarah had arrived early to help her get ready, along with a team of professionals who styled her hair, applied her makeup, and helped her into the stunning silk gown. Elena felt like she was preparing for a performance rather than her wedding day. "Mr. Castellano wanted you to have this," Sarah said, presenting a velvet box. Inside was a delicate diamond necklace that perfectly complemented the engagement ring. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered, though she couldn't help wondering if it was just another prop in their elaborate charade. "He also wanted me to give you this," Sarah continued, handing her a sealed envelope. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper with Dante's precise handwriting. "Elena, today we begin a partnership that will benefit both of us. Remember that appearances matter more than feelings. Trust me, and I will protect you. D." It wasn't exactly a romantic wedding note, but Elena found it oddly reassuring. At least Dante was honest about what this was. The ceremony was held in the hotel's elegant ballroom, decorated with white roses and candles. Elena was surprised by how many people attended. Apparently, Dante Castellano's wedding was a significant social event. She recognized some faces from the charity gala, but many guests were strangers. As she walked down the aisle, Elena's eyes found Dante waiting at the altar. He looked devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo, and when their eyes met, he gave her a small smile that almost looked genuine. For a moment, Elena allowed herself to imagine what it would feel like if this were real. The ceremony itself passed in a blur. Elena spoke her vows clearly, though her heart was pounding. When Dante slipped the wedding ring onto her finger, his touch was warm and gentle. During their first kiss as husband and wife, he was surprisingly tender, though it lasted only a moment. "Congratulations, Mrs. Castellano," he whispered against her ear as they turned to face their guests. The reception was an elaborate affair with a full orchestra, expensive champagne, and food that was more art than cuisine. Elena found herself introduced to dozens of people whose names she immediately forgot. Everyone seemed genuinely happy for them, though she noticed that many of Dante's business associates studied her with curious intensity. "You're handling this beautifully," Isabella said during a quiet moment. "Dante chose well." "Thank you," Elena replied, watching her new husband across the room as he spoke with a group of serious-looking men. "I hope I can make him happy. Happiness is complicated for men like my son," Isabella said thoughtfully. "But you give him something he's never had before, someone who chose him for himself, not for his power or money." Elena felt a pang of guilt. If only Isabella knew the truth about why she had really agreed to this marriage. Later, during their first dance, Dante held her close as they swayed to a romantic ballad. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple deeply in love. "How am I doing?" Elena whispered. "Perfect," Dante replied. "Everyone believes we're madly in love." "And are you a good actor, or do you just have a lot of practice lying?" Dante's grip on her waist tightened slightly. "Both," he said honestly. As the evening wore on, Elena began to notice things that concerned her. Several guests left early after brief, intense conversations with Dante. She saw money change hands discreetly, and more than once she caught fragments of conversations about problems that needed to be handled. When they finally left the reception, Elena was exhausted. The limousine ride to Dante's penthouse was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. "So, what happens now?" Elena asked as they entered the elegant apartment that would be her new home. "Now we settle into our new roles," Dante said, loosening his tie. "Your belongings were moved here this afternoon. Sarah will show you to your room." Elena's room was larger than her entire previous apartment, with a king-sized bed, elegant furniture, and a walk-in closet filled with designer clothes in her exact size. There was even a small sitting area with a view of the city. "How did you know what size to buy?" Elena asked Sarah. "Mr. Castellano is very thorough," Sarah replied diplomatically. "He had someone observe your shopping habits and clothing choices for several weeks." The revelation that Dante had been having her watched even before their first meeting was unsettling. But Elena supposed it shouldn't have surprised her. Everything about this man was calculated and planned. The next few weeks fell into an unexpected routine. Dante left early for business meetings and often didn't return until late evening. During the day, Elena explored her new life, attended charity luncheons and social events as expected of a Castellano wife, and started taking Italian lessons and etiquette classes that Dante had arranged. To her surprise, she discovered that she enjoyed many aspects of her new life. The cultural events, the intelligent conversations with interesting people, even the shopping trips to exclusive boutiques. She felt like she was becoming the person she had always dreamed of being. But she was also becoming increasingly aware of the darker aspects of Dante's world. Their penthouse had state-of-the-art security, including cameras and motion sensors. Dante's phone rang at all hours with urgent calls that he took in private. Several times, Elena noticed him returning home with bruised knuckles or a cut on his face that he dismissed as workplace accidents. The breaking point came 3 weeks into their marriage. Elena was reading in the living room when she heard raised voices from Dante's study. The door was slightly ajar, and she could hear him arguing with someone in rapid Italian. Her language lessons had progressed enough that she caught fragments, something about money, loyalty, and consequences. Then she heard a sound that made her blood run cold, the unmistakable click of a gun being loaded. Elena crept closer to the door, her heart pounding. Through the crack, she could see Dante facing 2 men she didn't recognize. One of them was pointing a gun at her husband. "You have 48 hours, Castellano," the man with the gun said in accented English. "Either you pay what you owe, or your new wife becomes a widow very quickly." My debt to the Morettis was settled months ago, Dante replied calmly, though Elena could see tension in his shoulders. The interest wasn't. 2 million, plus the penalty for trying to expand into our territory. Elena covered her mouth to stifle a gasp. $2 million? What had Dante gotten himself into? I'll have your money, Dante said. But if you threaten my wife again, you'll discover that I can be just as ruthless as your boss. The men left through a private elevator that Elena hadn't even known existed. She rushed back to the living room, trying to look casual when Dante emerged from his study a few minutes later. Everything all right? She asked, though her voice sounded strained to her own ears. Dante studied her face carefully. Did you hear something? Elena debated lying, but something in his expression told her he would see right through it. I heard voices, and I heard someone mention $2 million. Dante's jaw tightened. How much did you hear? Enough to know that someone threatened to make me a widow. Who are the Morettis? Dante sat down heavily in his chair, suddenly looking older than his years. They're competitors. We've been having a territorial dispute over some business operations. What kind of business operations? The kind you're better off not knowing about. Elena stood up, her hands shaking. No, I think I have a right to know. If people are threatening to kill you, if my life is in danger because of whatever you're involved in, I deserve to know the truth. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Finally, he spoke. I run a money laundering operation for several crime families in the city. I also provide security services and handle certain negotiations that require persuasion. The Morettis want to expand into territory that my clients consider theirs. The simple, matter-of-fact way he said it made Elena's knees weak. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates outside traditional legal frameworks. You're a criminal, Elena repeated, sinking back onto the couch. I married a criminal. You married someone who can provide for your brother's future and ensure your security. The methods I use to generate that wealth are irrelevant to our arrangement. Elena stared at him in shock. Irrelevant? People want to kill you. They threatened me. How is that irrelevant? Because I won't let anything happen to you, Dante said firmly. As long as you're my wife, you're under my protection. No one would dare hurt you. But what about you? What if you can't pay them? What if they decide to kill you anyway? Something shifted in Dante's expression. Are you concerned about me, Elena, or just worried about losing your meal ticket? The question stung because Elena realized she honestly didn't know the answer. Over the past few weeks, she had begun to see glimpses of the man beneath the cold exterior. Dante was intelligent, unexpectedly kind to service workers, and genuinely devoted to his mother. She had caught him reading poetry late at night, and once she had seen him feeding stray cats outside their building. I don't want you to die, she said honestly. This arrangement or not, I don't want anyone to die because of money. Dante seemed surprised by her answer. Even if I'm a criminal? Even then. They sat in silence for several minutes, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Dante spoke. The money isn't the real problem. I can get $2 million. The problem is that paying it admits weakness. And in my world, weakness gets you killed. If I pay the Morettis, every other family will think they can extort money from me too. So what are you going to do? I'm going to solve this problem permanently. But first, I need to make sure you're safe. I'm sending you to stay with my mother for a few days. Elena shook her head. No. We made a deal, and part of that deal was that I would be your wife in public. If you send me away now, people will notice. It will look like our marriage is in trouble. This is different. This is dangerous. Then we face it together. Isn't that what married couples do? Dante stared at her for a long moment. You don't understand what you're saying. If this goes wrong, then we'll deal with whatever happens. But I'm not running away. I've never run away from anything in my life, and I'm not starting now. For the first time since she had known him, Dante looked genuinely surprised. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. But I made a commitment to you, and I keep my commitments. Something changed between them in that moment. Elena couldn't quite name it, but she saw Dante look at her differently, as if he was seeing her for the first time. All right, he said finally. We do this together, but if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments, no heroics. Agreed? Agreed. As Elena prepared for bed that night, she realized that her simple plan to save her brother's future had evolved into something far more complicated. She was no longer just playing the role of Dante's wife. Somehow, she had begun to actually care about him. And in a world where caring about someone could get you killed, that was the most dangerous development of all. But as she lay in her luxurious bed, Elena found that she couldn't bring herself to regret it. For better or worse, she was Elena Castellano now, and she was beginning to understand what that truly meant. The real question was whether she was strong enough to survive what came next.